So I've saved Flex 4 as home, which is this, and it looks pretty much the same. I didn't mention that I'd actually added an extra menu item either, which is news. You probably spotted that. And I've also changed it to style, so we're going back to the original stuff at Hello World where we called it the CSS was a style, and so I've done the same thing with Flex 4. However, and this is what we're going to have a little bit of a look at the moment. Let's just go back and have a look at Flex 4 CSS. Yes, everything the same. We're going to just play a little bit with what's going on down here. Now, if you resize what you've got under Flex 4, it all just resizes it and repositions itself, because it's got all these little bits and pieces in here which you can play with the order and watch what goes down if you want. But what we're going to look at is this. It uses sometimes as min width and sometimes as max width. This one uses min width, so what that you got to kind of think in reverse. What you're saying is this: you want things to change as you get smaller, so it kind of works, it covers all bases, and then it covers sort of part of the bases, if you get my drift. So the way it works is you've got to sort of think in reverse. So let's say, for example, we wanted the header to get a little bit smaller when we moved into a smaller size. So if we're down to say the size of a phone, iPhone, we may want that there to get smaller. You're probably just going to jump in here and go, oh, well, that's alright, I'll just put in a header statement in here, which you can do, and I'll resize it. But if you do that, what will happen is, well, I won't show you what will happen. What I'll do is, maybe we get it right if I do it. No, I won't bother about it. We'll just get straight into it, alright? So this is what happens. The home file hasn't changed, except it says style, so everything's the same. What has changed is the style library's changed, and the first thing that's changed is this: the font size for the header is actually, you make it smaller, alright, because what it's saying is that if you get under 600, that's what you want the header to look like. You want the size to be that big with no padding. Okay, so and I've made a couple of other small changes in here that you need to, well, you don't have to, but you might want to play with as well. So just check your padding for your menu, which I haven't played with at all. I could, but I'm not. So I'll just show you what's changed down the bottom here. Okay, so in these media statements, when it says min width to 600px, the font actually gets a little bit bigger and the padding gets a little bit bigger. And when it gets to minimum width of 800, the font gets bigger and the padding gets bigger. Now, why is that? Well, if the reason for that is that you don't have to then try and figure out what is going to be the biggest screen I'll ever use. So you don't have to think about the maximum width of your biggest monitor. All you've got to worry about is the minimum width and let it change. So when it's under the 600, it'll default to all this stuff up here, but when things get bigger, it'll change. Okay, so if you want to, you can spend a heck of a lot of time playing with all this kind of stuff here, and we'll look at a little bit of it down the track, but at the moment that's what I've added. I've just put that little bit in there so that we don't get too carried away here. I've just played with the header. Now I've changed the style, it's called home. About and that we're not looking at yet, it's going to be slightly different. And when we do this, when we're running home out here, I shouldn't have to refresh it, but I will. So there you go, a big window. Now as I move in a little bit, I get to 800, bingo, it gets smaller. Okay, now you may not want this to happen, but I'm just showing you what the effect is. The effect is that when I get right down to the phone size, I could make it even smaller, and I could play with this padding a little bit too, so that everything is up on that same line there. So there's a little bit of playing going on down here for anything where the min width is 600. So once it gets past 600, it comes back to 800. When it gets past 800 and wherever you go, that's what it looks like. So that's how it works, just like that. And we will do some more style changes down here, especially when it comes to things like the order of things on the screen. In other words, rather than about looking like that in the middle and pictures on the side, we might want it slightly different. We may not want any of this in the middle for gallery, we might want all gallery. pictures everywhere, and we want the order to kind of stay pretty much the same as it gets smaller. So as it comes in, we've got to decide what we want to happen. Do we want the middle bit to come up to the top, or do we want it just to resize itself like that, so you finish up with a gallery that's in order and nothing written at the top? So we're going to have a look at that.